Why, hello there everyone. I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei. Minasan, ohayo gozaimasu. And as the title says, one of our tarantulas have passed away today, and is this one here. So, this is my Psalmopoeus irminia, also known as the Venezuelan sun tiger tarantula. And this is the tarantula that I've raised ever since she was a little sling, and she lived about 6.5 years, so she lived a pretty good lifespan. I guess in recent times a lot of my tarantulas are starting to pass on, and it's just really because of old age if anything. And honestly, these are usually the pets only tarantulas, not necessarily the breeders, because when it comes to tarantulas that I use for breeding projects, typically I sell away the female at some point. But the pets only tarantulas that I like, that are part of my collection, I usually raise those up and keep those as pets until the very end. So this girl here lived a really good life, and honestly it's kind of sad because I didn't really see this girl at all, because this species in my experience has been very reclusive, so I rarely saw my females out. And I do have 2 females, but only one of them had passed, which is this one you're seeing here. The other one is still alive and doing well, and she's actually been paired, but that is a side breeding project that I'm working on. And yeah, I'm doing pretty fine guys, so don't worry, I'm not feeling too upset at this. It's just that sometimes I wish I could have spent more time with my tarantulas individually instead of focusing on a bunch of slings and breeding projects, because it really takes away the personal aspect at times. So I didn't really get too attached to this tarantula, and this is something that happened during the weekend as of the recording of this video. So I usually bury my tarantulas when they pass on, so that's what I'm going to do for this female here. Rest in peace, and it was great having you in my collection. And this is happening to a few of my tarantulas now because they're reaching that age of getting old, but I think it's time for me to start growing my collection again as just having pets and not breeders only. But let us move on to the next topic of this video, a rehouse. And this right here is my Harpactira pulchripes, also known as the golden blue leg baboon tarantula, and this female here has been paired. And this is more of a side breeding project that I'm working with somebody else. And yeah, the reason why I'm showing this female here is because there are mites. And allow me to clarify something. Not all mites are bad. And what I mean by that is, when people think of mites on tarantulas, usually they think of them being parasitic, latching onto tarantulas, and pretty much feeding off your tarantula. Not all mites are bad. The bad mites are the ones that are parasitic, which latches onto your tarantulas. But usually the most common mites that appear in tarantula enclosures are usually the grain mites, which these mites usually thrive off humidity or a food source, and they multiply like crazy. And although they're not harmful to your tarantulas, they can become annoying to deal with. And that is the reason why I'm rehousing this female here, because she has been getting very annoyed and very bothered by these mites here. And I've done everything I could to try to minimize this issue, but I guess this is the best choice to make as of now, because I've tried everything from drying the enclosure out, using bait to draw them in, etc, but this is just to make it more easier on my end, and to make her more or less stressed. But as stated earlier though, not all mites are bad, and not all of them are parasitic. So if you see mites in your enclosure, just note that they're not all bad. Now, the ones that are bad are the ones that latch onto your tarantula. Those are the parasitic mites, the bad ones. But if you have mites just crawling around your enclosure, and they're not really attaching onto your tarantula, as in they're just in the substrate, and is moist, then those are probably just grain mites, which they're not a big deal. Just dry out the enclosure and usually they just die off. Now, if you let it get out of hand, they will repopulate like crazy, and then they'll become more of a pest to deal with, so you don't want them to get out of hand. But overall, what I'm saying is that it's not really a big deal, so don't freak out too much unless they're parasitic mites. But for the most part, most of them are just your average annoying mite. And for some reason I forgot to mention springtails, but springtails are a great, how should I say, a great addition to your substrate because they will outcompete the mites. So if you have springtails, use them. If you already do have springtails, great, because springtails are amazing, especially when it comes to outcompeting the mites and dealing with them. Okay, I'm going way too deep into the mites, but let us jump back into this video. So what you're seeing here is the Poecilotheria metallica, also known as the Gooty Sapphire ornamental tarantula. So yeah, so the reason I'm showing this female is because she recently molted, and this is a breeding project that I'm working on the side, along with my 2 other female Poecilotheria metallicas. So yes, I have 3 of these. But I'm still trying to figure out how to breed this species, and trying to work my way around it. So this is why I'm putting this as a side project, and not necessarily a priority. So we're going to have to wait and see what becomes of this project. but I'll update in the future if something interesting happens, but as of now, this is going to be something behind the scenes. But anyhow though, I'm showing you guys more Poecilotheria ornatas now, also known as the Fringed ornamental tarantula, and this is actually my favorite species of tarantula of all time. And the reason why I'm showing you these is because more females than males have molted out, and a lot of these males are penultimate now. So one more molt and these males should be ready to go, and honestly I can't find people who are willing to loan out a female for me for these males. So I've already talked about this species in a past video on why they're so difficult to acquire, so I'm not going to reiterate that because then it'll be repetitive. But anyhow though, I will show some females on this video as well that are freshly molted, because why not? And I'm not gonna lie, I do wish that Poecilotherias do grow a bit slower, but they don't. Poecilotherias are known for growing fast, and honestly I always say 5 years, 5 to 6 years of lifespan when it comes to this species. Especially because in captivity for some reason, in my experience that is, they grow way too quick. I'd say within 1.5 to 2 years, you will probably already have an adult male or an adult female. If not that, then at least a subadult. But that's my disclaimer though. Just in my experience, to each their own. Some people may have fast growing specimens, others may have slower growing specimens. But in general though, Poecilotheria, the genus itself, is known for growing relatively quickly. But if you do have a Poecilotheria specimen, I would like to know how fast or how slow it grows, because mines usually reach adulthood within, I'd say 3 years at the longest. But man, do I wish they lived longer, because Poecilotherias in my experience don't really live too long. I have yet to see one that lived past 10 years, but that would be cool to see though. And for those who are wondering, I don't plan on breeding all of my Poecilotheria ornata females. I only plan on breeding about maybe half of them, and I do have around 13 specimens that are female, I believe. I don't remember, but in general though, I don't really plan on breeding all of them. So some of these I would like to add them into my pet only collection and not necessarily only as a breeder. And honestly, that would sound very nice, because sometimes I just want to take it very slow and enjoy myself just as a hobbyist, not as a breeder at times. And I'm somewhere in between breeder and hobbyist, but I lean more towards a breeder than a hobbyist. So it's good to take it slow sometimes as just a simple tarantula keeper, and not necessarily as a tarantula breeder, although I do breed tarantulas. And now we're going on to the last topic of this video, bamboo. Yes, this guy here is bamboo, or Pamphobeteus confer antinous Peru. And this was pretty much a tarantula that I've talked about already on the channel, but now he's in pre-molt. And I'm gonna wait for this guy to molt, and depending on whether he matures out or not, his next molt will be depending on if I get a female or not. So let us wait and see. But I'd like to know what everybody thinks about this male, on whether he's penultimate or not, so leave it down in the comments down below. And I guess I'll wrap it up about here. So without further ado everyone, I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I upload every single Tuesday and Friday here on this channel. Also support me on Patreon and on IG. And with that, stay lax, and Laxow out from the Kumo Sensei.